Hi, guys, welcome everybody, and we are back with you in our office. This time to speak about the theme that we announced earlier, that is how to prevent flooding. And this is a moment that where I'm living here in Portugal, we are facing enormous storm rains, and some places have been flooded, and the house being flooded with water. Well, as a water consultant, I could not delay this subject in order to give you some practical ideas, some practical concerns, and some answers probably to face the nature as we are living at this moment. So thank you for being there. Thank you to assist and to follow our canal, and I'm really grateful to be here of service in this that is our office and your office as well. I'm going to thank all of the people that are following us on the Instagram, as we are going to switch over, and I'm going to stop the transmission that we are doing parallel on Instagram, so that we can focus here on your questions and approach the theme that brought us here today. So, without further delay, thank you to all of you. And okay, and we are back here in our live on YouTube. So, what we found in the last weeks is that many people have been confronted with their houses being flooded. Well, one of the particular reasons is not only that the water can come in from outside in, but what concerns me more, and that is what I wanted to approach on this live, is how to prevent that the water can germinate and can come from our drains. And that is what's been happening in some situations where some clients have contacted us how to prevent it. Well, one of the reasons, and I just prepared here a chart so that we can speak as we go. I'm just going to approach this scenario, this flip chart, a little bit closer to us. Is basically a simple thought, a simple idea. So when we have our house nearby on the ground level, and our house is served with a sewer connection, whether it is a public sewer or even if you have your own connection to a septic system, for instance, if you're not connected to the main sewer, what can happen is that as long as the groundwater level is below the critical point of flooding, everything can function normally. But what happens in a scenario that the streets are raising the level of the groundwater, and we see the water surfacing at the same level as our entrance door? What can happen in that moment is that the level of the groundwater raises, and by raising, it's connected with the sewer drains that we have from our own house. As a consequence of that, and I can show you, this is a simple bottom drain that can be simulating, for instance, a shower drain, as you can see there in that drawing. This is going to connect into the sewer. But what happens if the sewer line or the level of the sewer gets flooded from everywhere, and that this line starts going backwards into your house, into the drains? Then you will see the water coming in this opposite direction, and it starts flowing inside your house. This is in the majority of the cases where we see that the road just outside of our porch is being flooded. Well, almost certain that as a consequence of that, not only the water can seep in from your door and from the entrance that you have in your house, but also, even if you seal this entrance, you are not sealed from your drains. And that is one aspect that I wanted to bring to you. Now, how can we avoid this? How can we prevent this scenario? Well, all of the drains in each house has a pit, has a box where all of the sewer pipes get together before going out into the main sewer. Now, in that box, that in some cases they are inside the house or just outside of your house, you'll be able to intercept the pipe that during this horrendous situation can be accessed and can be blocked. How do we block it? There are many ways to block it, but there are also certified ways to do that. So by introducing a proper pressurized flow block, and I'm going to show you what is a flow block. For instance, for these small diameters, this is a proper solution that we can just put in according to the dimension. We can put in the outflowing pipe, and then with an air pump, it's blown the air inside, and it operates as a balloon that will hold the surrounding outside water that is in the drains to prevent it that they can go inside your house. Now, this looks complicated. It's not. It's a simple thing. It's just blocking what is normally the way out of your drains into the main sewer to prevent that the opposite direction is capable of flooding your house from the inside. So there are different brands, different techniques, different methodologies, but the basic principle is, okay, you secure that the water does not go in from your door as the water is passing nearby your door, but be aware of what can come from your inside. And the water can come out from the toilet sink, from the toilets, or it can come up from the drains. So that is the basic idea. And this is one of the situations that I wanted to bring to you. First, because we are still living in some cases and in some places with severe flooding area where people vacuum and empty the house, and then it comes again, and that can happen. Now, the same happens. Imagine that this scenario is not connected to the main sewer, but you have a biological tank. You have a system where the house is connected with a biological tank, for instance, that has an inlet and it has an outlet, and the outlet goes into a soaking point, whether it is a vertical soaking point or a horizontal soaking point. So imagine that this is your septic tank, this is your ground level, but with so much surface water, the underground water level raises up to the level that it's soaking the whole area. Too much rain, less soaking capacity. So what will happen is that this is going to flood, this is going to flood, and as the water is going to reach up to the same level, as you can see, the water can go into your house again. Well, that is the other situation where this can happen. So either you are connected to the main sewer on the road and the road gets filled up with water. It's like an open river, a surface open river. And as a result of that, it just flows back into your lower part of the house. Or you are not connected to the public sewer, but you have your own septic tank, but the surrounding water, the groundwater raises up to a level that is forced to push so that the water by gravity just flows back through the same pipe, the same drains. So the same technique that we can use here to block temporarily, and I'm talking about blocking temporarily the runoff of your sewer. So that also means that you will not be able to shower, of course, because you have no way to evacuate your drains. The same way we'll have to do also here. So in the same configuration, we'll have to find in the inspection chamber where the pipes, the drains are connected, we'll have to find a way of blocking that passage so that temporarily, while the groundwater is still higher than normal, or when you see that your road just outside of your porch is flooded. In that case, keep the DOP, keep the flow block in the same place. Don't use your water facilities, of course, because there's no way for that water to run. And wait until the ground level lowers. But in any case, you are blocking and preventing that the water can come upstream from the inside. Okay, so that is the what I wanted to bring up to you, because I see many people panicking and having no answers and seeing all of that water coming from the sewer, from the drains, and they end up being a little bit helpless. So find a plumber or a technician that can get access of blocks, flow blocks like this, and make sure that you are prepared. Well, the other thing is, considering that, is indeed that word, be prepared. What does being prepared mean? Well, if I'm living in an area where often the risk of flooding is imminent and is real, then I think it would be wise to find a solution that I can be ready for it. And of course, with today's information that we can know today that the risk of flooding tomorrow is imminent, then it's time to go and search for our inspection chamber, do what we need to do before the flooding can raise, and do in advance the blocking of your own drains. So that is my recommendation: is don't panic, but anticipate, prepare, be prepared. Although nature is much stronger than we are, thank God. Nature is strong, but we can adapt. We can prevent some issues and we can prepare ourselves for the situation that we are not very familiarized with. So, just to bring you a different concept, it's totally different if your house gets flooded with rainwater, that is water that is flowing down the road. The quality of that water is totally different than the sewer water that can come inside your house, whether it's from a public sewer or if it's from your septic tank. So if I would have to choose between two damages of having my house flooded, I would prefer to have my house flooded with surface rainwater than with sewer water flooding in and coming out from the drains. So this is my suggestion to you: is anticipate, prepare, and also analyze. Ask yourself, how are my drains connected? Okay, every time you flush a toilet or you open a shower, ask yourself, how is my sewer system working? Where can I eventually find a way of, as an emergency, create a blockage so that I can make sure that my house is isolated from the outside sewer? And in that case, do yourselves a favor. Get the necessary equipment and get it on before it's too late. Okay, so that was the basic concept that I wanted to bring to you. So if you have any questions regarding this situation, this theme that we are approaching this in this live, you are most welcome to go into our chat and put your questions. Even for Portuguese or not English speaking viewers, you can ask your questions, but I will answer them in English. And I hope that this content can be of help for yourself. But even if it's not helpful for yourself, maybe you know someone that is now dealing with this situation, or that know anyone that can be helped with this information. So it's not rocket science. You don't need to break anything in your infrastructure of the house. You just need to know where to access the vulnerable point that could allow the water to go upstream instead of downstream. So that was my my answer, my motto for this live, as we had to deal with this ourselves with some clients. So feel free to put some questions in the chat, and I'm going to open the chat here so that we can be of service. Now, one of the questions, as we were announcing this live for you, and because it was how to prevent flooding inside the house, well, the most frequent question that we received in our direct messages was, yes, but if my roof has been ripped apart, how can I prevent it? Well, that's not the case. That's not the situation we are dealing here. As you know, we do water consulting in regards of water treatment and wastewater systems, whether it's to evacuate and to drain, or to treat and to recycle. But we cannot prevent water falling in from the sky. If your roof has been destroyed or partially destroyed, that is not the theme we are dealing with. Another question that we received was, yes, but if the water is streaming down the road, and how can I hold it? How can I block it? Well, physically creating physical blockage, having a way of avoiding the water to seep through your doors, that is a construction part. Like you have fireproof doors in some buildings to prevent that the air can go from one passage to another, and in that case prevent that the fire can continue. Well, that is something that if you are living in an area that is flooding risk and that is below a certain level, then you should know how to prepare and prevent, and have some ways of minimizing the entrance of water coming through the doors, for instance. So that was another question that I want to disclose from this subject that we are talking about here. But the main thing, the main answer to you in order to, I'm panicking because I'm seeing the water germinating from inside out. That is the two possibilities. Either it's coming from your own septic system, that the surrounding surface of groundwater is so saturated that it's forced to push itself in, or if you are connected to the main sewer, that the road is completely flooded, and most likely the sewer line can also be flooded. And if that's the case, then unfortunately you are allowing that water to go into the deeper point, and the deeper point may be the bottom of your shower pit, for instance. So if your shower drain is on the low level, and if that low level is on the same level as the road, and you see a river flowing outside of your door, then almost for sure that the water can seep in and can flood you in from the main sewer. So, first topics, just to resume: find your inspection point of your sewage in the house, the main one that connects your house, your drains to the outside world, whether it's public or private. Find out where it is, get the necessary equipment so that you can be prepared and have yourself like a bicycle pump in order to inflate this DOP, this flow DOP, in the point that you can anticipate and be prepared for the outside flooding. This is my advice to you. So that was answering the question that came: how can I prevent it? So I hope that this information is valid for you. And if so, share it with your friends and relatives in cases that they are living in areas where the house could be flooded in these kind of situations, so that we can serve all of the people instead of panicking. So hope you enjoyed this live, and I'm here every month on the second Thursday of each month, 1700 hours Lisbon time, so that we can be here with our office open for you as it is now. I'm just going to answer a question that is coming in. Yes. Okay, I'm just receiving from my assistant Mariana um, that she it seems like the chat is not being accessible, and I'm not able to read the questions. So she has put here one question, that is: can a new house also be at risk of flooding, or does that only happen in older houses? Well, thank you for that question, and it's a very good question actually, because we think that because our house is a modern house, that it's waterproof, bulletproof, fireproof, windproof. Well, that's not the case. All of the houses need to have a drainage system. So if we are using water, and I'm just going to use this example as an analogy. So if I'm opening a water tap, whether it's a sink or flush the toilet, or even to have a shower, if I'm draining water, the water has to go somewhere. Okay. Now, the question that this viewer was having is: does this happen only in old houses or also in modern houses? Well, water is the same for millions of years. So that means that water only flows out in one way, which is flowing out by gravity. That means it goes from a higher level to a lower level. The only difference is when it needs to be pumped up. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a modern house or an old house, because the water has to go through the drains and going one stream. There are some places and some situations where there are some water traps. Okay, so it's imagine a box like this that have a like a valve, a gravitic valve that can only allow the water to go out in one direction, and it holds if the water is coming from the outside in. And that has nothing to do with being old house or a new house, but I'm going to draw you how that is how that system operates. It's a special equipment that can be installed in this line here. Okay, as a professional working with drains, I only have come across probably once or maximum two times in thousands of houses that I've been following, not only to install um, to install biological individual systems, but also in public connected sewage. Well, how does that work? Well, if we take this line here, for instance, which is the last inspection box, there are equipments that are put in the connection in the drains, and they operate like this. And up here they have a water level, a level indicator. So here, this unit comes along with like a compass, so like a water level device, so that this is absolutely zero drop fall in this particular place. Why is this important? Because this equipment, and you can find this, you can search for this, and actually I'm going to send in the afterwards in the description, or I'll make sure that we do a presentation of a unit like this. So here, in order for this to operate, there is a valve, okay, that makes it so that when the sewer is passing, to go out into the drains, this has a gentle way of allowing the water and the solids to pass. And that is the reason why it's so important to have this unit installed in the proper way, which is following the instructions from the manufacturer, so that this unit is completely horizontal in this particular point, because you need to have between 2 and 2.5% drop fall from here, and also in the continuing you need between 2 and 2.5% drop fall. But this particular unit, it's like a middle step. And why is this important? This operates like a non-return valve. That means with a non-return valve means that the water from here cannot go backwards. So if there is no further passage of water from the inside to the outside world, what will happen as a result, and I'm going to draw this in red. So when there is more pressure going upstream, coming from the inside, from the outside in, this compartment will be closed, and it will operate as the flow block. Of course, this is a much better solution because it works and prevents that from outside the sewer can come in. But there is a responsibility on this unit, or let's put it this way, not a responsibility, is a big word. There's a maintenance to be done on this equipment, and that is to be able to service and inspect if there is no blockage, because imagine that something can be like a bigger solid that is not able to pass through, then it can strangle, and once in a while it can be needed to to be unblocked. So that was one question. Thank you for that question. Give me just 1 second, because I'm just going to search, if I can search immediately, the the image of that equipment we're talking about. I'm just going to see. Yes. Well, this is an image of the system I was just explaining you. So this is the unit that I was drawing there by hand. So as you can see, and sorry to show you this on my phone, but so the fluid, this is the inlet. So the sewer comes from here, like I was explaining you on this drawing. So basically, this is the unit I was speaking about, but on the contrary, of course. So the water, the sewer from your house goes past through here, and it runs out here into the drains. And as you can see there, there is that yellow part is the leveling control, so that this valve is installed perfectly leveled. So once more, thank you for your question, and I hope that this can be of help, saying that it is not liquid, it's not 100% secure that all of the modern houses are equipped with systems like this. Like I said, in 21 years experience of dealing with new buildings and also rebuilding of some houses, I only have come across once or twice that the project was describing the usage of systems like this. Okay, so I would be more than help to more than glad to help on that subject. Another question that I'm receiving here is, what are the early signs that my house might be flooded? How can I easily tell if my house is flood prone or not? Well, I think that the answer is very easy to answer. First is to identify or to ask where in your local community, what is the history of that surrounding area. So imagine somebody that recently purchased a house in an area or in a city, in a village, and you have no historical records and no historical information if your area where you are living now has a history of being flooding. Now, if that's not the case, if you don't have that information in advance, what I would suggest you to do is, first of all, ask your neighbors, your neighborhood, your community, your local community, if there was a recent or even older flooding. If that's the case, then what I would suggest is ask yourself if the house you are buying has a way of two things: have an inspection box so that you can easily get access and you don't need to do any rebuilding on the drains. Or in the other case scenario is to install a anti-flooding system if you bought a property in an area that is riskful and that can be vulnerable for floodings. So first, get the older experience from the history, from the past. That the best way is to ask your neighbors. Very simple ask a question. If they don't come with a reasonable answer, go to your local authorities and ask if the area where you are living is flooding risky, if it's vulnerable or not. And if that's so, then get a specialist, get a plumber, or contact us. Maybe we can help to identify if what you can do in that particular case. Okay. Of course, if you are living in the first floor or second floor, then the risks are minimized. But we are talking here about living or having your house in a lower level, or also what's very important to anticipate is, imagine this scenario. Your house is here. I'm just going to draw this. Your house is here. You have your your garden over there, and you are just nearby a hill or a mountain. What can happen is, if there is not a proper evacuation for the rainwater that can come downhill, and if that has not a good water escape, what can happen is that this area here of your garden can start flooding. And if that starts flooding, well, then the same conclusion is, if this gets flooded, then the box that is connecting your sewer to the outside world, again, doesn't matter if it's public sewer or your own septic tank, it can flood. And if it floods, then it can go backwards. So we come back to the same principle. Is first identify how vulnerable is the location of my house. Am I receiving all of the water from the hillside? And is my garden capable of dealing with that? Is there an escape for it? Or can I prevent the water to go inside the house from my drains? And that is the subject that we are bringing to you here. Is we have this possibility or this risk of being connected to either the public sewer or the individual solution. In both ways, we have to have a way of finding blocking elements that we can avoid the water not to flow in, or we can block it with, for instance, a device like that. So thank you for that question, and I hope that it was well answered. Now, as I don't have my chat here visible for me, I'm getting the assistance here from my team. The other question is, if I live on a high floor of an apartment building, I know I'm not at risk of flooding and ground level, but could heavy rain cause water to enter through the pipes? Well, only if the ground level is completely filled up with water, then it's going upstream. I'm going to draw that scenario for you so that it's understandable. So if we have a flat apartment, okay, same scenario, we have here one house, and we have here the first or second floor. How the drains normally work is, the drains from your bathroom, from your shower, go down to this line here that connects to the sewer, correct? And the drains from this house here are connecting to the same pipe, to the same box. Well, if the surrounding water level raises, and I'm now going to use a different color. So if the water here goes and floods, And even if you seal the door and the water is going in here, okay, and it starts flooding the house of this person here that lives in the lower in the lower level, well, imagine that the water still continues to raise. It would probably not be very likely that this is also raising up to your level. I believe that that would not be a scenario, as if this is connected to the main sewer, that the main sewer has ways of being escaping the water in a lower level. But if that is the case, that would be the only possibility for the water to, after flooding completely up to the roof of up to the ceiling of the lower level, that if the outstanding water is still raising, that it could come from here, because water is always flowing, like I was showing in that example. Water always flows from up to down. So that means that if your drainage pipe here from your shower is a lower point, lower than the surrounding water outside of your apartment, yes, it can go in. Yeah. So that is answering to your question. Is it likely to happen? Not likely, but it could. Another question is, if I go on vacation during the rainy season, are there any extra precautions I should take to prevent my house from flooding? Well, thank you very much for this question, as this could be very very frightening. Imagine that you have your dream holiday home, you have your holiday house, or you went, like the question, you went out on holidays and you are somewhere across another part of the world, and you see in the news or you hear from your family members or neighbors that the whole area is surrounded. Well, there's not much you can do, but the one thing that you could do is just adapt your house with an anti-return system. So that would mean, indeed, to be more secure, you could prevent it from happening by investing, if you don't have it yet, which normally it's not likely, but you could invest in having a way of preventing that this phenomenon can happen. Well, if the water is going to seep through your doors, that's a different thing. But like I said before, having clean water running into your floor and into your house is totally different than having sewer water going in. And that is, I think, in this opinion, in this case, for answering this question is, okay, maybe ask yourself, if I'm in a risky zone, I should have a device or system that would prevent or minimize the risk. That is what I would suggest. So thank you for that question. Another question: is prevention expensive, or does it ultimately end up being cheaper than repairing the damage? Well, to give an answer to you on that matter, I think that what's expensive is having an unsafe feeling. It's like having an alarm system on your property. The alarm does not buy you security because it does not prevent you from being broken in, but it gives you the feeling that you can be informed, you can be alerted. So basically, if you invest the necessary costs to either install a system like that, and if those costs are affordable for you, and then I would say they are risk, they are worthy. They are worthy to take to take to minimize the risk of flooding from outside in. So, but to answer the question, if the installation is a cheap installation or an expensive installation, well, that will depend much on what kind of involvement do you need to do. Now, imagine that your house is immediately connected to the main sewer, and that there is no way of getting an inspection box or even to expose the drain pipe in order to install a system like that. Well, then I think that the installation could be not so cheap, because you need to create the conditions for it. But imagine that your house has enough room to excavate, to expose the drain pipe, intercept that section, and install a one-way valve. Well, then maybe that's not so expensive as it is. But I would ask for a quotation for it. You can share this content of this live to whoever you want to address to ask a quote. But I would first get the price for the equipment, the necessary equipment, and then ask a quote for the necessary works and get a specialist to go in. Also, even before starting to excavate, because sometimes neither you or the one that you are going to contract, they probably don't know where the pipes pass. Well, today you can easily find a company that can go from the inside here with some detector and including a camera, a video camera, and they can detect exactly and mark exactly how deep and in which location is your pipe passing, so that they can make a map for you and identify which is the best spot to excavate, intercept the pipe, and make there a box, where inside that box you can have the unit that I was showing to you. So it can be easy, can be difficult, can be cheap, it can be expensive. It depends much on what is your own reality. Okay, so that is the answer to that question. The other question that is jumping in is, my house was affected by these floods. The taps are running again, but how can I know if the water hasn't been contaminated in some way? How do I know it won't hurt me? Can you help me directly? Well, this is a very good question, because every time that there is flooding, and if there was like a stop or a runoff of water, means that the authorities and the responsible companies and the services that provide you with the mains water, with the city water, they also have been dealing with some issues that are not in their normal ongoing procedure as the normal daily job is. So normally, the water that we are served from our municipality supply, the water is controlled, and the quality of that water is controlled, even when there is a sudden emergency system that needs to be put in position. Even in those cases, the authorities and the responsibles for the quality of the water, they have to make sure that the water that they are serving in the pipes is controlled. But the best way to answer is get in contact with your own water supplier, because they are doing everything they can and everything they have in their hands available in order not only to make sure that the water supply is established, is re-established, but also to make sure that the water is controlled, is tested, and is certified. How can you know that? Well, if you take your water bill, for sure you'll see a number that you can dial and that you can contact in order to get technical information. So there must be and there shall be a help desk number that you can call in and that you can ask and give information where you are taking the water from in your local area. And you can specifically ask if all the quality tests are being done as normally they are also done. So normally in a scenario that, as we have seen in some villages and some cities that ran out of water because the infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure went down. So that means that the pumping systems and the treatment systems were temporarily out of order. Now that means that they had to do all the necessary diligences to restore the water flow. And by doing that, they also have the obligation to make sure that what is being served again is proper water quality. What can sometimes happen is, in answering the question, how can you know if the water quality is good? Well, we all have the possibility to, when we open the tap, to see if the water is clear, if it's not cloudy, if there are no sandy sediments, because in emergency scenarios, sometimes what can happen is that if there's like a crack, like a leak somewhere, and you are on the lower level, you could be receiving some water that is not the original water quality. And if that's the case, then what I would suggest you to do is get in contact immediately with the water supplier and expose the situation and explain that the water you are receiving is having some different color or whatever. What's I don't presume that would be the case, but to be able to tranquil your thoughts on that subject is ask, make the right questions to the right people. And the right people to answer are the ones that are serving you the water. So get in contact with the help desk and they will certainly explain you if that water quality is assured and is tested and is verified. Because even if the automatic control systems, because most nowadays the most equipment are remotely controlled, they get all of the information and they can control and manage the treatment systems remotely. Well, if there's a power cut for a couple of days, then you can understand that it's not the same as having the systems like a normal day job. Well, when that's the case, they will make sure that your water quality is okay, and they will have to test it in several points before it reaches out to you. So normally you should not be afraid of that, but just to tell you, you have ways to know, and to know is to ask. And to ask not to your neighbors, not to a face group group. No, ask the questions directly to the ones that can give you the right information because they have analyzed and tested. So that is my answer to you, my recommendation. Another question is, knowing that my house is at risk of flooding, how can you help me? Why should I consult you? Well, first of all, I would be flattered and we I would be happy to help you, even if it's on a distance, and even if it's just on a call. If your house is being flooded, even with a video call on a distance, I can probably have a different lens, a different eyes on what's happening into the flooding of your house. So maybe you are not familiarized with this scenario, and I can probably immediately check with you if this is happening. And if this is happening, then, well, I cannot help you directly, but probably I can indicate you to, as fast as possible, get somebody to help to identify where you can find this potential interception box, and how you can get hold on a plug on a flow block like that, and how you can make sure that it's watertight. That is how I could probably help you. Um, and it differs from place to place and from where you are in the world. But basically, I could probably help you to assist you on your procedure, on your method, how to approach this situation. And if that's a situation like that, well, then nowadays internet is a great tool in order to identify where in your neighborhood you can get a professional helper that can go and block the drains, for instance, if that's the case. Well, if there are no more questions, and I'm just checking here with my team to see if we have no more questions. If that's so, then and imagine that I was not helpful or not, and if there are any questions that you have related to this subject or to other subject, well, you know that we're going to be here next month in the second Thursday of the month. We are going to be here live again with you, where you can jump in, can come in, even if we are approaching a different theme. Well, this office is your office, as I always say. So come into your office and let's discuss the questions that you have. And I believe that that is the best way that I can help you, whether it's locally or far away. So thank you. Thank you for assisting to this live. I hope I could be of help. Don't forget, there are ways to minimize the panic. And I believe that this is the final message that I want to give to you in this live, is there are many reasons in life where we can panic. And the reason why we panic is when our way of dealing with the situation that we have to deal at the moment is somehow out of our own control. Well, by knowing at the end of this life that there is a way of controlling the things that were beforehand out of our control, that gives us less chances and less motives to be panicking. So my comfort word for all of you that are now dealing with situations like this, and unfortunately here in Portugal we are living this at this very moment in different places, my word of you to you is nature has its own will, and sometimes we are not capable of dealing with all of the emotions that are going through us. But the best way is not to panic. I know this is difficult to say, difficult to understand, but my words for you in this particular moment is get the best information, learn from this experience, understand how your house is or can be better prepared in order to prevent scenarios like this to be so difficult to deal. And the best way is to have your mind open, to breathe, experience, live it, learn it, and grow from it. That's my advice to you. And like so many of these sentences that are here inspiring me and you in this that is your office, I already invite you to follow us on Instagram for our next live that will be in the end of this month, but also to be back here in YouTube next month for our next live. Thank you all. Appreciate your time, and not only for the ones that are following us right now on this live, but this live will be available for you in our canal, in our YouTube canal. So that means that even after 200 years, 300 years, 500 years from now, people can log in, can consult, and can see the content that we gave in this live. Have a great day. Enjoy life.